Oh, hello there. Sorry. Just having a discussion with some friends there. Didn't see you. How is everyone? Good to hear. Some motoring news, yeah? Not a whole lot's really happened since I last spoke to you, which was a week ago. And my, how the weather has changed. There's some strange moisture falling from the sky. Whereas last week I was cooking alive on the roof of my Ford Focus, which I'll get to again in a moment. Not a huge lot has happened, but probably the biggest news, and I'm sure everyone's aware of it at this point, which was broken yesterday, which had been rumoured for a few weeks, but it's been now made official that Bugatti and Rimac have come together. Bugatti are taking a majority share in Rimac, and Rimac are taking a majority share, well, a large percentage in Bugatti, and they're going to team up, so shared research and development. I'm sure there'll be a lot of part sharing and blah, 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 blah. Rimac are still going to make Rimacs, Bugatti are still going to make Bugattis. Porsche are obviously a big investor in Rimac and obviously part of the Volkswagen group as well, so it's all going to be blah, blah, blah. We're all going to make essentially similar-ish electric vehicles going forward. Which is sad in one sense that it's probably the death of the quad turbo W16 1,000 plus horsepower beast that's in the back of Bugattis at the moment, and has been since it came back with the brilliant mind of Ferdinand Piëch. Won't talk about Dieselgate. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. Mate Rimac has clearly shown that he can make incredibly fast and powerful battery electric sports cars. So that's probably what the future of Bugatti needs to be, because I don't imagine their W16 engine would meet Euro 7 fuel and emission standards when it comes in I think 2025, or I think it got pushed back, maybe it's 2027. But anyway, the future is, I guess, bright for both companies, but it's definitely electric. Fair play to Mate Rimac. I think he's 32 years old. He's certainly come a long way for such a young man. And it's I don't add up the percentages because he now owns X percent, Bugatti own X percent, Porsche own X percent, Hyundai own X percent. I'm no mathematician, but all the figures didn't really seem to add up to 100. It seemed to be more than that, but I don't know. Whatever. Either way, interesting times in the world of ridiculously powerful, ridiculously expensive cars. The Jimny, the Suzuki Jimny, the new Suzuki Jimny, whatever the model nomenclature is now, which we all love. Cheap, rugged, simple off-road car with retro-ish styling that manages to work. Some people can't get that quite right, but there you go. It went off sale in Europe. Well, not Europe. Well, maybe all of Europe. I don't actually know about the mainland, but definitely in UK and Ireland, they have to take it off sale because the 1.5 litre engine that's in it doesn't meet, I think it's even Euro 6D emission standards. But there's a loophole when it comes to having commercial vehicles. So they brought it back as a commercial. So you can now get a Jimny without any rear seats, which is fine because it was pretty small in the back anyway. And if you had the rear seats in it, it basically didn't have a boot. This commercial version of it comes with Steelies, paired back, plenty of space in the back now. It's definitely the one I would have, regardless if you could get the normal one anyway. Whether we'll see any here at all is another thing, because one, the Jimny is pretty rare over here anyway, because there was a limited supply sent over to UK and Ireland as it was originally, and now these commercial ones, they're going to send 480 to the UK. So how many of those managed to make it over here is another thing. But look, the Jimny is a great car. I don't think anyone doesn't like the Jimny. You can get it with a 660cc turbo K car engine, as they call them in Japan. Why they don't sell that here, I assume that would meet emission standards, and that'd be a cool little engine, I think. But I don't know, maybe in the future, I don't know. But yes, long live the Jimny. Fiat have bought out another special edition of the Abarth 500 or 695, or what they call it, the Abarth Scorpion. Whatever. That it must be coming close to the longest running car, the current new Fiat 500. You can't hate it. I drove some of the smaller ones. You get them as rental cars occasionally. Pretty crap, to be honest with you. I've heard they're pretty notoriously unreliable. Shit just seems to fall off them. But yeah, another special edition to go with the many we've had over the years. If that interests you, I'll put up a picture of it now. Another irrelevant car news, Novatec, I think they're German tuning company, have brought out a kit for the F8 Tributo to make it look worse. I think there's some power involved, but who needs more power in an F8 Tributo? Kind of looks like the new Corvette, which is a terrible looking car as well, because the proportions in that car are all over the shop, because for some reason the new Corvette had to be mid-engined, but it also had to have a big boot in it so fat Americans could go and play golf. So the proportions are all over the shop. So if you have an F8 Tributo or are planning on getting one, although I don't know if it's still on sale because, as I said in my last video, I can't keep up with the Ferrari model lineage. But yeah, if you want to make your F8 Tributo worse, Novatec will now do that for you. And some more irrelevant car news. The Cupra Formentor VZ5, so it's going to be the Cupra Formentor with the Audi 5-pod in it. Good stuff. Because admittedly, I've seen a couple of Cupra Formentors knocking around, and as much as I wouldn't want a heavy crossover thing as my hot hatch sports car, whatever the fuck you want to call it, it's a good looking car, and with the 5-pot, yes, even cooler again. But the VZ5 Formentor will have drift mode, as will the new RS3, as does the newest Golf 4. Again, absolutely irrelevant, but hey, you know, this is the world we live in. As I'm sure most of you are watching this, because it became pretty big. It was pretty big on the gram when a certain private owner brought in a SL65 AMG Black. So you know, the very limited run V12 version essentially of the SL63, but the SL65 being the V12, 63 being the V8. Black Series, making it the ultimate SL that you could get. Toto Wolff, the team boss of Mercedes, part CEO, blah, 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 I don't know, he has fingers in many Formula One and automotive pies. Apparently he actually helped develop the SL 55 AMG Black Series, and obviously he had one. And now he's selling it. It's only got like 5,000 kilometers on it, POA. It's going to be very expensive, of course. I think it was a 300,000+ euro car when it was brand new. His name being attached to it and it being such a low mileage example will only add to the cost. It's not a car I really get, if I'm honest with you. You buy an SL because an SL is a roadster, and then with the Black Series they put a solid roof on it out of carbon fibre. It weighs 1,900 kilos and has a 5-speed torque converter. I don't think that's really how I would want my sports car. And the money you would spend on an SL65 AMG Black, that opens up a lot of doors. But hey, look, if you've got the money and it's your thing, go for it. I mean, you're probably not going to lose any money on it, but then I wouldn't bargain on anything in the car world at the moment, because who the hell knows what we will and will not be able to do in 10, 15 years time. Yeah, that's pretty much the bones of it for car news, really. My Ford Focus, as I mentioned in my previous video, the engine light had come on. So I decided I'd try a few things. There was a misfire involved, so I said I'll put a new coil pack in it and I'll change the spark plugs, which I did. And when I did that, the misfire went away, but then I started running rough as balls. So I tried putting the old spark plugs in, which did seem to calm down the rough, but the misfire came back. And then I put the old coil pack back on, and then the new plugs, still running rough as balls. So I don't know. If anyone has any idea what could possibly be wrong with the Ford Focus, please do let me know. Because when my engine light is on, my misfire is gone, but now my engine is running very rough. Probably the moral of the story is, when something breaks and you have very little mechanical know-how, give it to a mechanic. And as tradition now, I will end off my VOD podcast, whatever the fuck you want to call it, with F1 chitter chatter. So we had our second race the weekend just gone at Spielberg, the Red Bull ring, which I still see it as the A1 ring, or the Österreich ring, as it was known back in the day. Thought it might have been a bit more of a procession as the first race was a couple of weekends ago, but it was a lot more exciting, I must admit. Although Max was miles ahead of everyone up front, everything else behind him was chaotic. There was people pushing people off track, people getting penalties, blah blah blah, overtakes all over the shop midway through the mid pack, through the midfield. George Russell, after his amazing qualifying in 8th, wasn't able to keep Fernando Alonso behind him for the last points position. So George Russell is still yet to score any points in Formula 1, but you have to assume that's probably going to change come 2022, because it'd be very surprising if he doesn't end up in the second seat at Mercedes next year. Thankfully, Max did win and win comfortably, because I got a bit nervous after qualifying. He seemed to be really far ahead and dominating all weekend, and obviously he dominated the previous weekend. I just kind of got that feeling like, it looked like a done deal, and I thought maybe we were going to wake up and it'd just be one of those chaotic races where nothing goes to plan. But thankfully he won the race, fastest lap. Perez was, I think he ended up finishing sixth, which Perez really needs to. He didn't qualify great, and the big incident, Lando got a penalty for essentially not leaving enough room, and he went off into the gravel and he lost lots of places, blah blah blah. Get to Lando again in a moment. But yeah, he finished 6th when his teammate was miles ahead in front. They're keeping the faith with Perez, but I think Perez is going to have to really start fucking having some much stronger weekends. But anyway, at least Red Bull have increased their lead in the Constructors' Championship. Max has increased his lead in the Drivers' Championship. Hamilton was off the podium. He picked up a bit of damage on his floor, apparently. Lando qualified second, which was amazing, and he held second for ages. But then, with his time penalty, he dropped back a bit. But he came back, and he managed to finish on the podium, which should have been second. But rules are rules, I suppose. And Bottas finished second, which admittedly was nice to see. Look, while there's questions over how dedicated or how fast Bottas is and whether he deserves to be in the Mercedes, that's an argument for another day. But he seems like a good bloke, and it was nice to see him have a good day at the office. Danny Rick thankfully scored some points. Lando is still showing him a good pair of heels, but thankfully he had a decent race. Although he picked up a few places at the start off the track, which was a bit questionable. Fernando got on the radio to kind of point that out. But all in, a better weekend for Danny Rick. And and Kimi and Sebastian managed to come together on the very last lap and essentially take each other off. Both of them were running out of the points anyway, not a huge big deal. Kind of looked like more Kimi's fault than Seb's, but the two of them kind of tangled unnecessarily, which is not great to see for two guys who are good friends off the track. But they're older and wiser than that. A messy way to end a weekend that didn't go particularly great for either of them. But that's it. I'll leave the F1 chat for now. Toto Wolff after the race, although sarcastically talking to Sky Sports, was like, "We will turn up in Silverstone and we will 1-2 and be 30 seconds ahead of everybody." He said it sarcastically, but at the same time, Silverstone has always been a pretty good track for Mercedes. Home race for Lewis, obviously. And they are bringing an upgrade to Silverstone as well. So we shall see. The championship is definitely far from over. Max only has, I think, an 18-point lead, possibly. Maybe it's more than that now. But anyway, it's far from over. And Silverstone, which is in 2 weeks' time, it's going to be the first race with this new sprint qualifying thing, where it's going to be a sprint race on the Saturday to determine the grid for the actual race. And there will be points. I think it's 3 for first, 2 for second, and 1 for third for the people in the sprint race. And anyway, whether I'm not sure if I agree with it. I like the way qualifying is at the moment, but we shall see. At least they're giving it a go. They probably should have given it a go in one of the Austrian races, seeing it was at the same track, but whatever. But anyway, so that's enough Formula 1 chat. So we have a weekend with no Formula 1, but the Goodwood Festival of Speed is on. I do believe Sky Sports F1 are going to be covering it. and it's usually on YouTube as well. So hopefully it'll be covered on YouTube, because the Festival of Speed is always great entertaining watching. I'd love to go. I would have went to it this year if we were able to, but for obvious reasons we can't. So I'm going to try and make the Festival of Speed next year. Touch wood that the world is a more normal place and we'll be able to do that, but we shall see. Before I sign off, I have to bring up a car that I saw on the classifieds probably a couple of weeks ago now, but I just can't get it out of my head. Now, it's in the UK. It might be my perfect car. Now, I can't afford it. One, because I can't afford the sticker price, but because it's in the UK, I'd obviously have to VRT it and pay the VAT because of thank you Brexit. But it's an E39 Alpina B10. It's the 3.2 6-cylinder, which I know some people will say get the V8, but I think fast BMWs, you know, taking the E39 M5 out of the question, I think 6 cylinders, you know, it's a BMW thing, but it's a B10 3.2 Touring manual with a cloth interior. I can't stop thinking about it. It might just be the most perfect car for me anyway. So maybe, I don't know, I don't play the lottery often, but maybe I'll play it this weekend. And if you see me driving around in an Alpina, an E39 Alpina Touring, you'll know I won the lotto. And no, don't send me begging letters. But yeah, I'm going to sign off there now. It's not a huge amount going on really in the motoring world. Hopefully things get a little bit more exciting as the days and weeks move on. But until then, stay safe, stay well. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.